The instinct to go on a pilgrimage, I believe, is deeply embedded in the human spirit. It is a practice that is found in the majority of world religions. Walking the way of the cross first began in the early church, when pilgrims journeyed to the Holy Land to walk through the narrow streets, following the footsteps of Jesus as he carried the cross on the road to Calvary. In the 16th century, this practice became known as the Via Dolorosa, the way of suffering. Today, this devotional practice, also referred to as the Stations of the Cross, provides us with a way of entering imaginatively into the events of that first Good Friday. Stopping to reflect and pray at each station draws us closer to Christ in his suffering and helps to deepen our faith and our trust in him. The first station, Jesus is condemned to death. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. When he was accused by the chief priests and elders, Jesus did not answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many accusations they make against you?" But Jesus gave him no answer, not to a single charge. So when Pilate saw that he could do nothing, but rather a riot was beginning, he took some water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves." Jesus, you stand condemned, and no one speaks for you. Your disciples are nowhere to be seen, and you are all alone, seemingly powerless, and yet your silence is disarming. Pilate, despite his power, cannot make you answer him. He knows you are innocent, but he is afraid of the crowd, mindful of his own position in society, and so he chooses not to do the right thing. He washes his hands and walks away. As I stop here, I recognize that there have been times in my life when I have felt let down by those I trusted, and I carry that hurt. But I also recognize that, like Pilate, I have at times failed to do the right thing. I have not always had the courage to speak up for what is right, to be a voice for the voiceless, and so by my inaction have caused hurt to others. Father, I ask for forgiveness and for grace to learn how to forgive. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. The second station, Jesus accepts his cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Carrying the cross by himself, Jesus went out to what is called the place of the skull, which in Hebrew is called Golgotha. Jesus, the burden of a heavy cross is laid upon you. You stand stripped of your clothes and wearing a crown of thorns. You are mocked, jeered, spat at, and beaten. But you accept the cross willingly and without complaint, taking on our selfishness and pride. Sometimes I complain over small things, yet standing here I am reminded of the heavy crosses many people have to bear. Some are visible, the cross of illness and of loss, of homelessness, and of the burden of old age and isolation. Other crosses people carry are not so visible, the heavy burden of guilt and of shame. Lord, you accepted your cross without self-pity. Help me to follow your example. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. The third station, Simon of Cyrene helps to carry the cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. They compelled a passer-by who was coming in from the country to carry his cross. It was Simon of Cyrene, the father of Alexander and Rufus. As I stop here, I imagine the scene unfolding. The busy streets, And as the soldiers grab a stranger, Simon of Cyrene, to help you carry the cross, I see that he is mortified and embarrassed. A respectable man by looking at him, but he looks around in case somebody recognizes him. And yet, as he helps you, I see he is drawn to you. Lord, I too recognize myself in Simon of Cyrene, embarrassed and confused at being dragged into somebody else's life and into their mess. I much prefer to stay in the background and leave it to others to be involved. I like a quiet life. But as I stand here, I too am drawn by your gentleness in the face of suffering. It makes me feel ashamed at my unwillingness to get involved and help others. It is something I could so easily do. Lord, we thank you for all who give of themselves in service to others. May I never be ashamed of you. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. The fourth station, Jesus meets the women of Jerusalem. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. A great number of the people followed him, and among them were women who were beating their breasts and wailing for him. But Jesus turned to them and said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children." On the road to Calvary, so far, Jesus has been silent, as if he has gone deep within himself to find strength for this journey. Now he meets some women who are crying, and he stops to comfort them. His concern is not for himself, but he tells them that the city will be destroyed and they will be scattered. Lord, you acknowledge the women who have no voice or no power in this city, and you try to comfort them even though you are the one in pain. As I stand here, I think of all those women all over the world who are displaced, scattered from their home. Women who try to keep their children safe in unthinkable conditions. Women who are still being mistreated, controlled, or abused. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow your love. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. The fifth station, Jesus is nailed to the cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. When they came to the place that is called the skull, they crucified Jesus there. Jesus' hands are nailed to the wood of the cross, hands that touch the sick and raise them up. Hands that touch sightless eyes and deaf ears, hands that bless the children, hands that broke bread with his disciples. Lord, as I stand at this station, I see you are now in the hands of others as they hold you down to nail you to a tree. I think of all those nailed down by their circumstances, the chronically ill, those with disabilities, and the infirm, whether in body, mind, or spirit. I think also of those being held against their will behind wire fences and in holding camps. Lord, we take our hands for granted. With our hands we touch, we welcome, we caress others. Help us to be your hands in this broken world. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. The sixth station, Jesus cares for his mother. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Meanwhile, standing near the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing beside her, he said to his mother, "Woman, here is your son." And he said to the disciple, "Here is your mother." And from that hour the disciple took her into his own home. Mary stands at the foot of the cross. What is she thinking? Is she remembering that first day when the angel told her not to be afraid, that she would conceive and bear a son? Or is she remembering Simeon's words when he said to her that a sword would pierce her own soul? How right he was. The pain at seeing her precious child nailed to a cross is unbearable, and yet Jesus catches her eye. He picks her out in the crowd and tells his friend to take her into his home. Even in death, Jesus is watching out for her. Lord, as I stand here, I am reminded that in the midst of your pain, you again think not of yourself, but this time of your mother. I think of all parents who have lost a child, and am reminded of your call to us to care for the suffering in this world. I think especially at this time of the families who have lost loved ones due to the coronavirus. The pain of loss is universal. Lord, we pray for all who wait and watch with the sick and dying. And at this time, we hold before you those who, because of the coronavirus, cannot be with their loved ones as they return to you. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. The seventh station, the cross is raised and Jesus dies. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Then Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two from the top to the bottom. Now when the centurion, who stood facing him, saw that in this way he breathed his last, he said, "Truly this man was God's Son." Jesus gives up his spirit. His work is done. It is finished. What a painful end. He came to give the world a new way of living, sight to the blind and hope to the poor and marginalized, and we hung him on a tree, mocked him and spat in his face. And in his last hour, he forgives us. I stand here at the foot of the cross and think how true that is. I often forget your love for me, and for your whole created world which you call us to tend and care for. I find it hard to forgive, yet you forgive me over and over again. Lord, at the foot of the cross I lay the burdens of my heart. Help me to know your forgiveness and your healing power, and give me grace to take up the cross and to follow you. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever.